Generalísimo Francisco Franco, caudillo de España, por la gracia de Dios. He is a dictator who ruled Spain for 40 years, the longest-running dictatorship in Europe. How did he rise to the ranks? Franco was born on December 4, 1892, in a town of El Ferrol on northwestern of Spain. His father, Nicolas Franco, was a worker in the Spanish Navy, and his mother, Maria del Pilar, was a deeply religious traditional woman who raised Franco and his siblings with strong Catholic morals and emphasis on modesty and duty that later shaped Franco's worldview. Still, his father was more interested in alcohol, and he was separated from his family. In 1898, Spain fought and lost the Spanish-American War. This conflict marked the end of the Spanish Empire, which had once been one of the biggest in history. This national humiliation is known as Desastre del 98. This loss had an indirect influence on Franco's life, even though he was only 6 years old at the time. In 1907, at the age of 14, Franco joined the Infantry Academy in Toledo. He graduated in 1910, beginning his military career. In 1912, he volunteered to serve in Spanish Morocco, where Spain was fighting against the Rif tribes. He said his experience in Africa shaped his later life. In Morocco, the Kingdom of Spain was engaged in a colonial war against the Rif tribes. Franco showed tactical skills and discipline. For his courage, he was promoted to major at the age of 23, making him one of the youngest in the Spanish army. After his promotion, he was sent to strike the Asturian coal miners. It was his first experience using military force against Spanish civilians, and on this campaign he met his future wife, Carmen Pola. In 1920, General José Millán Astray created the Spanish Foreign Legion. It's one of the most famous and feared military units in Spanish history. Franco joined at its creation as second-in-command under General Millán Astray. In 1923, Franco became commander of the Tercio. On October 23, he married Carmen Polo in her hometown Oviedo. In the following years, Spanish society was shaken by the leftist movement that opposed the traditional monarchy and the Catholic Church. This came because of the fall of the Primo de Rivera regime due to the economy resulting in high taxation and rising inflation. He resigned in January 1930. In November 1933, the new government appointed General Franco as commander-in-chief of the army. In 1934, another massive strike of coal miners took place. Franco was tasked to deal with it and restore order in the area. He sent the Tercio to take charge of the strikes. At the time, 2,000 protesters were killed or wounded. This action backfired heavily by rallying leftists into a strong party called the People's Front. In February 1936, an election was held. This time, the strong, newly formed leftist People's Front secured victory. The new government ensured that generals were not close to the seat of power. Franco was dispatched to Tenerife in the Canary Islands. The government kept close tabs on him by wiretapping his phone and checking his mail. At the time, the supporters of the leftists started a riot against Catholic churches, and they began burning churches and killing priests. Behind this, a group of generals were plotting a military coup. Franco didn't join the coup right away. He waited, carefully studying the situation. Franco was a calculated man. Only after the leftist violence escalated and Carlos Sotelo was murdered by the Republican police, which motivated him to join the Civil War. In July 1936, the Spanish Civil War began. Franco declared, "The Republic has betrayed Spain. Only the army can save her from anarchy. Glory to God and to Spain, the movement has begun." He then flew to Tetuan, Morocco, aboard a British-chartered Dragon Rapide plane to take command of the army of Africa Spain's most battle-hardened force. This is when he secured help from fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. This allowed his army of Africa, 30,000 elite soldiers, to cross the Straits of Gibraltar and capture southern Spain. Seville, Córdoba, and Granada fell early. In the meantime, Franco's African army reached Badajoz, near the Portuguese border. After capturing the city, Yagi's troops carried out mass executions of prisoners, suspected Republicans, and civilians. Between 1,000 to 2,000 people were shot without trial. After the fall of Badajoz, Franco's army continued its northward march towards Madrid. But his march was deliberately slow and extremely brutal. Franco believed in caution over speed. On his march, he diverted. Instead of marching directly to capture Madrid when it was vulnerable, Franco deliberately turned his army away to relieve the besieged Alcazar of Toledo. A small nationalist garrison led by Colonel José Moscaro was holding out inside the Alcazar of Toledo, surrounded by a Republican force. It had been 70 days, refused to surrender despite the starvation, till Franco's army arrived and broke the siege and liberated the Alcazar. Alcazar has spiritual and symbolic meaning in Spain. When Franco liberated the Alcazar, he used it for propaganda to legitimize his uprising. He used photos and church support to craft the story of a divinely chosen leader saving Spain. This event transformed him into El Caudillo. When the military uprising began in July 1936, it lacked a leader. Instead, General Emilio Mola commanded the northern part and Franco the majority of the southern part. In Burgos, the nationalist high command met to choose a single leader. The two main proposals were General Mola and Franco. Many generals voted for Franco, including Generals Quindelán and Yague, who argued that Franco should lead as he had the largest army and the highest prestige after the fall of Alcazar. After days of debate, the junta voted. On October 1, 1936, General Francisco Franco Bahamonde became Generalísimo of the national armies and the head of the government. At this time, the Spanish Civil War was at its peak, and both sides were supported by their allies. This war would not spare civilians. It left a mark on Spanish history. Both executed a large number of people. In February 1937, Franco attempted to take Madrid, but failed in the Battle of the Jarama River. Weeks later, the Nationalist Army, mainly with Italian troops, fought in the Battle of Guadalajara, but also failed. After Jarama and Guadalajara, Franco completely abandoned the idea of capturing Madrid quickly. Instead, he decided on a long war. In his mind, victory is not in haste. It is won by eliminating the enemy's roots. He then starved, surrounded, and divided for nearly 3 years, cutting supplies, crushing the Republican other strongholds, and waiting for the city to tear itself apart. On March 28, 1939, his troops entered the capital almost without a fight. When Francisco Franco took over Spain, he established an authoritarian regime to create a single Spanish identity, one great and free. He rejected regional nationalism in Catalonia and the Basque Country. He suppressed their language and institutions, which is the reason Barcelona is known as more than a football club, because it has a Catalan identity and descent. Franco understood the emotional power of football and its roots within Spain, and he used it as a political instrument. Real Madrid emerged as the perfect lever for his message of national unity. Real Madrid was founded long before Franco's rise. The club received the royal title Real from King Alfonso XIII in 1920. But in 1931, when the monarchy fell, the club dropped the title Real from its name. But after Franco's victory, the crown reappeared on the crest, even though Franco had ended the monarchy. However, that doesn't mean Real Madrid gained support from Franco. Real Madrid was in a bad shape when Franco's decades of rule began. At that time, Barcelona and its city rival, Atletico Madrid, were the dominant forces. Real Madrid's rise came only in the 1950s, under the presidency of Santiago Bernabeu, and with the arrival of Alfredo Di Stefano. Di Stefano's signing was one of the controversies in football history. Some say Franco had his hand on it. Here's what happened. Di Stefano was contracted with 2 clubs at the same time. Due to economic reasons in Argentina, he went and played in Colombia. Real Madrid approached the Colombian team, and Barcelona approached the Argentine club. Both clubs signed his half right and went to FIFA. FIFA asked the RFF to find a solution, and came up with Di Stefano will play a split season, half with Madrid, half with Barcelona. FIFA also approved this. However, this angered Barcelona, and they sold their rights to Madrid, so full rights became Real Madrid's. This is why there is a rumor that Franco helped Madrid with the signing of Di Stefano's half-rights from Barcelona, but no source can back this up. However, on one occasion, Franco helped Barca build Camp Nou. While building Camp Nou, Barcelona went deeply into debt, but the regime allowed Barcelona to survive financially, partly to show national stability. To this day, fans of both clubs argue over which one received support from Franco. But Franco was not a true football enthusiast. He was a political opportunist who understood that sport could serve as an instrument of power. During World War II, Franco and Adolf Hitler had a meeting in Hendaye, France, to discuss Spain joining the war on the Axis side. But Franco refused to join. The Spanish Civil War were a massive drain on the nation. This decision was considered a wise one by many. I mean, the war had many casualties. This was the best decision any leader could have made in World War II. Also, Franco made impossible demands. He wanted to take control of French Morocco, Oran, and a massive shipment of food, fuel, and weapons. This left the Führer furious, left him saying, "I would rather have 4 teeth pulled out than meet that man again." Remember, Franco is always a calculated man. He remained neutral between the Axis and Allies in World War II. After the Civil War, Spain became a kingdom without a king. Spain had always been a monarchical kingdom, ruled by the Bourbon dynasty. The last king before Franco was King Alfonso XIII, who fled the country in 1931 when the Second Spanish Republic was declared. The exiled king died in 1941. His son, Don Hugh de Bourbon, became the heir in exile. Juan wanted to return, but Franco didn't want him. He sees him as a liberal. Don Juan talked of democracy, I talk of Spain. However, in 1947, Franco passed the law of succession to the head of state. He declared Spain a monarchy again, and the head of state, Franco, had the power to choose the future king, not by blood, but by merit and loyalty to Spain's values. After these new laws, he changed the succession from Don Juan to Prince Juan Carlos, his son. Juan Carlos was 10 at the time, and he went to Madrid to begin his studies and training as a future monarch. After World War II, Spain was completely isolated because of Franco's relationship with the Führer and Il Duce. And yet, within a decade, Franco managed to pull Spain out of isolation and rebuild its economy. Franco's method was rebranding. He dropped the fascist imagery and began portraying Spain as a Catholic, traditional, moral nation. His first major diplomatic victory came with the Vatican Concordat in August 1953. In the same year, Franco achieved the real breakthrough, the Pact of Madrid with the United States. The deal involved US military base rights on Spanish soil. In exchange, the US provided $500 million in military and economic aid. In 1955, Spain became a member of the United Nations. In the 60s, Franco was aging and needed to plan for the future. His successor, Juan Carlos, was ready to be crowned as king. On July 22, 1969, Franco made the historic announcement that Prince Juan Carlos de Bourbon was appointed to the head of state with the title King of Spain. In 1973, Franco was 81 years old and could no longer run the government as he once did. So he appointed Carrero Blanco as prime minister. Carrero was the most trusted member of Franco's inner circle. He considered him as his right-hand man. This new appointment made Carrero the most powerful man in Spain, with the sole exception of Francisco Franco, of course. On December 20, 1973, Carrero attended his usual morning church service. After finishing his prayers, he got into his car and began to drive away, when a massive bomb exploded beneath the street. The blast was so powerful that it hurled the car 20 meters into the air, landing it on a nearby terrace. Many would later make dark jokes about the incident, calling him Carrero Blanco, the first Spanish astronaut. The attack was carried out by ETA, a Basque nationalist and separatist organization. When the news reached the aging Franco, it devastated him. He took it as a personal blow. Appearing on television the next day, pale and shaken, he called Carrero the best of us and vowed justice. But the old and ailing Franco would ultimately fail to avenge his closest friend. In 1975, Franco weakened. On broadcast television 3 weeks before his death, he gave his last word. Spaniards. I approach the end of my life with a clear conscience and the satisfaction of having fulfilled my duty. I ask forgiveness of all if I was mistaken in anything, and I ask you to pray that God may receive me in His mercy. May the Spanish people remain steadfast in the unity and greatness of the fatherland. Long live Spain. On November 20, 1975, Generalísimo Francisco Franco passed away from natural causes. After his death, his successor, Juan Carlos, led Spain's transition to a full democracy. This was the story of Francisco Franco. Feel free to share with us what we've missed about Franco's life in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We're making more videos about World War I, World War II, and 20th century war stories, so don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We've already made videos about Himmler and Mussolini, so check those out. Shout out to Abel and Yoftahe for making this video. And join the membership to get early access to the video. Adios.